trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benches. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Don't forget I got memories, dead stain the whole room if I let him bleed. Shit was dark, I let this little light him.
I need to hear what you got to say. First and foremost, high life, man. Appreciate you checking in another day. Hope all is well with you, big dog. So listen, everybody. I put it out on Twitter. I finally got the number for the Skype calls. This whole window, 7 to 7:30. I'm taking all calls. We're all talking Washington football. So if you want to come in, get some things off your chest, vent. You know what I'm saying? Let things go, whatever it is. Offense, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Rivera, Derek Forrest for the bullshit he pulled. I'm sure he's still running on 95. You know what I'm saying? Coaches ain't slowed him down yet. You got something to say about John Bostic? You concerned about Dustin Hopkins? You concerned about the offense and that their inability to move down the field? All that good stuff. Call in. The number is 443-242-4479. I'm gonna put it in the chat right now too. Hold on 1 second. 443-242-4479. I put 4473. Something is wrong with me. Boom. 443 242. What the hell? 443 242 4479. There we go. Boom. There's a number. Call in. Let's talk. All right. So, clearly, as you all know, I was in Miami on Friday. Look, man, I had a busy work week. And I'm going to just keep it a buck with you. I understand this streaming shit is a job. But my job is fucking stressful. Okay? My job is stressful. So, I had meetings all day Friday. Then I had to go work out. Because I missed the day out of the week. I had no choice but to go on Friday. I was not missing it. So when I tell you all I wanted to do was go home and watch the game, that's all I wanted to do. So again, I missed Friday streams. I missed the pregame and postgame. We got some catching up to do. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start things off on the offensive side of the ball. A general thought. I think the offense, the starting offense, I'm not entirely too sure, like, to what degree I'm going to lean into being concerned. And here's what I mean by that. This offense that Washington has right now, they're moving the ball just fine. They're moving the ball just fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, in between the 20s, talk to me all day. But for whatever reason, man, there's 6 possessions that Ryan Fitzpatrick and the starting offense has had. And out of those 6 possessions that this starting offense has had, guess how many points they scored? I can tell you they ain't scored no touchdowns. They ain't scored not one touchdown. I don't even think they scored a point. It may have been 3, like against in the Cincinnati game. They not doing anything, and I think my major concern has nothing to do with their inability to score. Like, scoring, that's one thing, right? But when you see the lack of execution or the mistakes, the missed opportunities, especially in the red zone and scoring position, that's where the concern builds. Like, there will be a difference. For example, right? The difference in a bad offense and being concerned and what Washington is going through right now is if Washington wasn't able to move the ball at all. If Washington wasn't able to move the ball at all, that's the problem. And we got our first caller, man. We're about to take this thing. First call on the Trapper Dive live stream. Here we go. Hello, who is this? I recognize the number, my man. What up, boy?
This Johnny Walker, fool. How you feeling?
Johnny Walker. All right, you know what I'm saying? This is
Yeah,
Basil Hayden over here. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing all right, my brother. You know what I'm saying? All is good with you?
all is well. I keep telling wifey we got to try that Basil Hayden. I haven't tried it just yet, but
First off,
I
no.
definitely want to give back to you.
She does not, no. She don't need to be drinking this. You can drink it. She don't need to be drinking this. Not at all,
we
man.
going to see. She real particular about her liquor anyway. She only drink what's the pop I told you about the Casamigos. That's what everybody
Oh,
drinking
yeah.
nowadays. So
I tried that
that's
thing
all
in
she
Atlanta, but
drank that. She sip a little bit of Patron, but she really not a heavy drinker. So, I pulled up a little something slight tonight to kind of hop on and just drop a little bit of knowledge. It's breaking up on my end. I'm watching the show, but it keep going in and out. So I wanted
the
to
audio?
go ahead and call. Yeah, it's going in and out. I'm not
Okay.
sure if it's on your end or if it's on my end.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure, but that's actually good feedback, because if it's not, I wouldn't be able to tell. It would be y'all to let me know what's going on. So yeah, that's actually good feedback. But I'm gonna give you the floor, Montel. Let me know what you're talking about with this Washington team, man. It's your opportunity to get things off your chest. So
Absolutely.
You got the floor.
As you know, I'm a huge Redskins fan, and I do still call them the Redskins. I do apologize if you offended, but that's how I came up. So I do want to talk about a couple of things pertaining to preseason. Some of it, a lot of it may be pertaining to big picture items. I don't want to be really extreme or get ahead of myself, but I still have my questions about Rivera, man, and a lot of them are valid. And it's not to say that he isn't going to be the guy, but I want to ask you something. I'm one of the guys who pays real close attention to the team, maybe more than I should. Have you noticed how he gets offended by certain questions if it doesn't or if someone is skeptical about a decision he's made, or
he gets defensive,
or him not doing? Yeah, he gets really defensive. I think that's a bad character flaw. Like, I don't know if it was an interview he did last week where someone asked him about William Jackson being a man coverage corner and this defense being primarily a zone coverage defense, and he got offended. I'm like, that is a good question from a reporter or anyone asking a question. He got offended. They asked him about Dustin Hopkins, who missed 2 field goals, although it's preseason. Again, I'm not trying to be extreme, but those are good questions. He gets offended. To me, that is like slight insight, and I don't want to be extreme, but that is slight insight as to maybe the type of person our coach may be. Now, I don't want to be too hard on him, but again, and I'm going to touch on some of the things some of the decisions that have been made that may seem minute, but they could play out to be big. Things such as, today we seen that Steven Sims was cut. There's been rumors going around that it's like if you're not around with a guy, that, regardless of your talent, you may still get cut. Not to say that Steven Sims is a Pro Bowler, but who's he getting cut in favor of, It seems like at the moment it's potentially Adam Humphries. And what has Adam Humphries shown us this preseason? What has he shown us in the last 3 years, actually? He hasn't been productive. He's been injured. And he hasn't looked good this preseason. Him and Fitzpatrick haven't been on the same page. And I understand that that's Fitz's guy. But we cut a guy who has potential. Sure, last season he had a bad season, but that's another thing that goes on within this organization. We give up on talent. I've seen that a lot in the past. We give up on talent, and I know me and you spoke about this. You may disagree, but Alfred Morris was another one where I felt like we gave up on too early. But it's just a lot of questionable. yeah, and that's fine. But it's been a lot of questionable decisions that, again, long term, we got to let things play out. But something else I question is like the releasing of Morgan Moses. Is the rookie ready? It wasn't like we couldn't afford Morgan Moses. And again, he's not a Pro Bowler, anything like that. But I think that's just long term. But if I'm just going to keep it brief, I think my concern this season is the quarterback play, because we know that Fitzy is unpredictable. We know he can light you up, but we know also that he can light it up for the other team as well. So I think this preseason, the lack of scoring with the first team, and again, it's preseason. Like I keep having to emphasize that but this is all we have to go off of right now. You know, as football fans, we cling on to everything that we can, but the offense, while it's been able to move the ball, it hasn't produced any points. Nothing significant. We haven't seen the end zone. I do like the way the O-line looks. I don't like the way that the tackles looked in pass pro Friday night against Cincy. Leno gave up the 3rd and 1 to Hendricks. Hendricks ate him alive and got the tackle in the backfield. I've analyzed the game, and I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and crunch film for hours. I have a regular day job, but I do pay close attention to what's going on the field. And I'm not 100% certain if Cosme is going to be it. Leno hasn't looked great, but again, it is preseason. And I'm excited about the defense. Everybody who gave up on Landon Collins early, I'm hoping that he comes back and make everybody eat their words. It's so much we can dive into, but I just wanted to get a couple things on the table. I can go all day about some of the decisions that Vera has made. But
so let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this then for rebuttal on the receiver spot, right? All right.
Okay.
So I would say, because clearly we know, based on that Bengals game alone and in sporadic moments in the Patriots game, we know that Ryan Fitzpatrick and Adam Humphries aren't on the same page right now. And we know that the presumption or assumption was that, you know, it's the reason why those two are on the same team here. And when it comes to Steven Sims and his opportunities here, do you think that Adam Humphries, it's a two-parter here. The first part is, do you think that Adam Humphries was on the back end of the roster as was Steven Sims, who legitimately was fighting for the 6th or 7th spot? And secondly, after that question is, Steven Sims, I think, had the worst moment or the worst possible timing ever to have a bad year, where he's entering his 2nd season with a new coaching staff and immediately showed himself as a liability. It didn't matter what 2019 showed, because clearly we watched him. He was a playmaker. But when 2020 came and he had a new coaching staff and he fumbled so many opportunities away in Washington, he's automatically in a negative perception or negative perceived mindset from the coaching staff that's already here. So he's fighting an uphill battle. So my question is, just to be clear, is do you think that Adam Humphries was on the bottom end of the roster similar to Steven Sims? And do you think that Steven Sims had a legitimate shot to upseat Adam Humphries given his 2020 season?
I think it's one of those situations where Adam Humphries should have been at the bottom of that receiver list. Everybody goes through the receivers. You know, we got Terry, we got Curtis Samuels, we got De'Ami Brown. Cam Sims appears to be a lock. Are you going to keep 5 or are you going to keep 6? Humphries should be there with Sims. Because if you're going to say, and I get it, 2020 wasn't a great year for Sims. I'm not going to absolve him from all blame. But 2020 wasn't a good season for Humphries. Granted, it wasn't under this regime, but that's their job to go in and do their research. 2019 wasn't a good season for Humphries, while it was a good season for Sims. So I'm not upset as much as the fact that they're cutting Sims. It's who are you cutting him in favor of? Who else makes the team? You know what I mean? Like, and specifically, who else makes the team at that slot position? Because while we picked up Curtis Samuels, who may potentially play slot, okay, he's an often injured player. I don't think that's something that a lot of fans know about Curtis Samuel. He's off injured.
Or they overlook it. Put it under the rug.
Exactly, they may overlook that. But if he goes down, and you're dependent upon Adam Humphries, who's also been injured these last couple years and not productive, then what are we talking about? Because if it's between Adam Humphries and the more athletic, the more talented, the more potential Steven Sims, then I gotta ride with Steven Sims. And I get it. He was fighting an uphill battle, but that doesn't mean give up on him, because a lot of football is confidence, and because he started off bad last year, that's what led to a lot of his mistakes. We listened to Kevin Shea, he calls it the yips. It did look like he had the yips. He was in his head. It doesn't mean he's a bad player. He may have needed to start over. He may have needed a clean slate. He may have needed a good preseason. He may have needed a vote of confidence from his coaches. But as you mentioned, he was fighting an uphill battle. It's essentially, I don't want to go all the way back, but it's kind of like the Dwayne Haskins situation, where it seems like this coaching staff already had their mind made up prior to this preseason. It seems that way. Now, I'm not saying that is the case, but most people would have told you prior to this preseason Steven Sims wasn't making the team. And Steven Sims didn't make the team.
Here's where I think he ultimately fucked up at, bro. I think Steven Sims fucked up in the actual Cincinnati game. His opportunities was already being limited. But then on top of the opportunities that were being limited, he came into the Bengals game and dropped one of the biggest passes of the game in that moment, albeit a preseason game. It was important for him, and he dropped it. But not only did he drop it,
very much so, he
alligator armed it. He did not want to get hit, and he dropped it. And so while I understand what you're saying, and I understand your perspective, and that's not something I'm disagreeing with, I'm more so hammering down the point of Steven Sims making his own bid. And because I know you're saying don't give up on talent. So I'm just saying sometimes in these situations, similar to Dwayne, right? These are just one of those opportunities where, you know, if it was going to work out, it just wasn't going to work out here. It's going to work out somewhere else, because the opportunities that he was provided is just something that, you know, you can't keep fucking up on. That's kind of where I'm at. And Steven Sims fucked up with drops and fumbles.
And fumbles. And I agree 1,000%. Again, I'm not absolving him of blame. But if Adam Humphries goes out and he alligator arms the pass, is he cut tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
And that's the thing. And that's why I don't. It's political in a sense, because in my opinion, the better, more talented player is being cut in favor of. That's my thing. If Steven Sims was here and the slot receiver was Jamison Crowder, or the guy fighting for the spot with him was Julian Edelman or Russ Welker, I wouldn't have any problem with him going. But the alternative is Adam Humphries at this moment, as far as we know. That is where the issue lies with me. It isn't that he didn't make his own bed. Of course he did. Of course he didn't produce, and he didn't shine when he needed to most. But again, we have other guys on this team who seem to get more chances, like a Troy Apke or Adam Humphries, and they aren't showing much. Now, we don't know what they're doing in practice. We don't know, but I think that's where my issue lies. It's not that Steven Sims didn't make his own bed. I agree wholeheartedly. But again, if we're going to say, okay, this guy's fighting an uphill, just cut him in the offseason. Why you wait till the preseason and waste everyone's time?
Yeah.
Why are we doing that?
Yeah. So look, hey, Montel, this is a perfect, like, you're the first person to call into the Trap or Die, man, and get things off your chest. So I appreciate your time, and what I will do before we separate, I want to, because I know you're not on social media, so I'm gonna pose this question to you. It's a part of this 4Ws thing that I do twice a week, pregame and postgame. So I'm gonna pose one of the questions to you, and I want to see where your take is, and we can go from there. So I'm gonna pose to you the what, and the what has been the biggest surprise 2 weeks into the preseason. This can be good and or bad, whatever way you want to take it. What has been the biggest surprise to you 2 weeks into the preseason?
To me, I think the obvious answer, I want to go with something a I don't want to go with Jared Patterson because everybody's going to say Jared Patterson. I want to.
Hey, but they ain't hear your take. You a former running back. Hey, go ahead. They didn't hear your take.
So diversity really stands out to me. The fact that he can do everything. I didn't know he could catch out of the backfield like this. And Ron Vera says he's going to try him at kick returner. I didn't know that would be something that he would excel at. But another surprise to me, and this is somebody I don't want to count out, is Taylor Heineke, man. I have said after that Tampa game, I got to see more. Now, to me, his athleticism, he's not great from the pocket. He does look like somebody who can turn the ball. I didn't know this dude could move like that. I did not know that. And keep an eye out for my guy, Justin Fields, man. I keep telling everybody he was getting slighted in the offseason for whatever the reasons may have been. But I really, truly think it's against 2 preseason games, but he's going to be a stud. His upside is Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson-ish. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I do. All right, man. Hey, so listen. Again, this is Tuesdays and Thursdays, bruh. Because I know, like I said, I know you ain't on social media, so I'm taking this opportunity to tell you now. You can always call in, bruh. You got the secret line. You know what I'm saying? The direct line. So whenever you want to get some things off your chest, man, pull up with that Johnny Walker, man, and talk your shit, bro.
It might be a little something different next time, but I got you.
All right, big dog. Be safe. How the little one?
Man, he keeping me up, but I'm adjusting. He doing better every day. He's getting a little bit better, but don't have none no time soon, bro.
Look, man, I'm gonna try my best, bro. I try my best.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, we're gonna tap in, bro. All right. Oh man. Hey, that's my good boy Montel, man. Montel, I didn't know him, boy, since what is it, 2021? I didn't know that man since 2006. If y'all ever worried about do the fellas really are they really tight like that? Like are your male friends really tight like that? And truth be told, we always are. It's the females who be getting into the issues and bickering back and forth about the little things. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all, hey, I'm not gonna go too far. I'll just say sometimes, friendships ends over pettiest things, man. And for at least for my group, my circle, we've been holding Sean since middle school and high school, man. So that's a good man right there. So enough about that. We need to transition back to the football. Again, phone number is in the chat for those who are here. Appreciate everybody who tuning in. The phone number again, 443-242-4479. You can call into the Trap or Dive right now. Get things off your chest, whatever it is that you want to talk about. Anything that frustrated you, anything that made you happy, anything that you got something to look forward to, a bold prediction, all of that. Get it off your chest. So we're gonna go more in depth tomorrow with Doc Walker and Dre, who's scheduled. Doc Walker is scheduled to check in tomorrow with the Trap or Dive at 8:00, and Dre will be there as well. We're gonna go a little bit more in depth on the Cincy and Skins game, as well as everybody who is playing well right now. I will say this: Jared Patterson, he has shaken the tables, man. Like, he's shaking the tables, and I don't know to what degree the coaches really believe in him right now, but every single opportunity that he's getting, he's crushing it. He's crushing it. Jared Patterson is one of the people on the offense, because everybody else, if you think about it, you got Antonio Gibson who's coming back, Ryan Fitzpatrick, you know what he is, the tight ends, Logan Thomas. You haven't seen much of Samus Reds because he only played one game. John Bates, who played, he was consistently okay. He was consistently okay in his first and second game. There was no poor play from John Bates. It was no overall consensus poor play from John Bates. And then the offensive line had this. They had their, saying, and what is? But Jared Patterson has been the dog. I I think he leads the league in rushing yards right now, and all-purpose yards too, which speaks to the type of player that he's been for Washington, at least in his short time here. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good to see, in the sense that when you have a running back who can challenge veterans the way he is, Peyton Barber, Lamar Miller. They made the Lamar Miller cut easy for Jared Patterson. Like that was no issue. And tomorrow is the cut deadline from 85 to 80 players, 4 p.m. Eastern. And truth be told, the other running back, Jonathan Williams, is probably in that. He's probably in that cut list as well. So we're talking about 2 running backs, 85 to 80, that I think is probably going to end up is a direct result of Jared Patterson's play. This is a guy who answered the bell in the passing game. He answered the bell recently in the Bengals game with running in between the tackles, short yardage, excuse me. He returned kicks. Coaches wanted to see him return kicks. They want to see everything that Jared Patterson could do for this offense. And truth be told, he is answering in every single way. So I'm not going to get overly excited. Like, they started mixing them in with the ones. Now I will say this. His play against the ones against Cincinnati, it was so-so. It was 50-50. It wasn't that impressive. But when he got into the 2s and the 3s, people who were about the same type of talent as he was, or even worse, he showed out. He balled. He made people look silly. He was making plays, big runs, not necessarily big yardage runs, but big runs. Like for example, it was like a 3rd and 2. It was like I think I say like a power play to the right side, or maybe a stretch. I can't remember right now, but he had the vision to actually see the defender that was crashing on him, playing it on a dime, broke the tackle. I think a spin move, 3rd and 2, right? Breaks both those tackles, gets a first down, keeps the chains moving, keeps the drive alive. Clutch drive, clutch play, clutch run. And he's showing out against these people that's on the same size or same talent level as him. And these are things that coaches are looking for every single chance that they get. Like, they're going to test him. He has 17 carries. Like, you don't get that many carries in one game, in one preseason game at that, if coaches aren't really fucking with you. You're going to get those opportunities. They're going to see what you can do. So, again, like I said, we're going to talk about the Bengals and Washington game in depth, a little bit more in depth tomorrow. But for me, Jared Patterson continues to shake the tables, man, and it's really good to see. Hold on one second. And for defense, man. So, all right, let me put it this way. Defensively, I will say right now, for everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching, I will say right now, the defense for Washington was outstanding. Overall, outstanding. There was a moment within the first 3 possessions, because this is when I made the comment. There was a moment in the first 3 possessions where I said they were bending but not breaking. Let me take my drink right quick, you know what I'm saying, before I go ahead and get into it. Ooh. Hey, so look, there was a moment where they were bending, but they were not breaking. And this is what I meant by that, because I had pushback on that comment, because somebody asked me who was not watching the game at the moment, how was the team looking? Offense, we can all agree they weren't good. Defense, this is where I said bending, not breaking. And it was pushback on, oh, the defense gave up only 20 yards and 1 first down. How are they bending but not breaking? Now, I'm going to allow y'all to tell me if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. All right? It is what it is. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But here's what I'm at with it. The first drive of the game for Washington's defense, they gave up like a 25, 30-yard screenplay. Now, it was called back for holding. But if you look at the holding call, just look at the holding call. That person was not getting to the ball carrier. He was not getting to Joe Mixon at all. If he was held or not, he was not getting to Joe Mixon. So that holding call was in a situation where he was not necessarily he was not in position to make a play, but Washington's defense gets blessed anyway because of the fact that the lineman held. So who knows what happens if he's not held? Who knows what happens if that drive is continued? Secondly, within these 3 drives, remember, this is only what I'm talking about, these 3 drives, the first 3 drives of the game, Jamar Chase had numerous drops. 2 of them were definitely converted for first downs. Numerous drops. Quarterback made the right decision. Jamar Chase, he failed to make the play. Numerous drops. Bending, but not breaking. They caught a break right there. They caught a break on multiple occasions. And then I think it was the third possession where they ended up scoring the touchdown, if not a field goal. They get the ball inside Washington's territory, but what happens immediately after they get the ball? I think it was a turnover, or maybe just I think it was a turnover. It was the Cam Sims fumble, matter of fact, to be specific. Jesus Christ. Cam Sims turns it over, and Cincinnati gets into the red zone. I think they were at the 40 at the time. They get into the red zone after like 2 or 3 plays. They're already in the red zone, and then they end up getting inside the 10 after like 4 or 5 plays. So these opportunities in which Washington is presented to stand up for their offense or make a play or make a change, sometimes these, when I say bending and not breaking, this is what I mean. They're giving up these plays, but they're not necessarily giving up points in a sense. They're not always giving up points in a sense. That first drive, they end up forcing a punt. Because they forced a punt, people forget about the penalty that was called on Washington. I mean on Cincinnati. The second drive, I give them all the credit for the most part. I actually think Jamar Chase had a drop on that second drive, but they ended up punting on that one. And then the third drive was a turnover, gave them short field. Cincinnati ended up driving into the red zone inside the 10. As a matter of fact, things happen. They end up stopping them, kicking the field goal or whatever. Or maybe that touchdown. I can't remember which came first. But my point is the fact that bending and not breaking, sometimes you got to understand when it comes to this defense, you're not always going to see anything. I mean, if the stats help you, that's fine. But sometimes you got to watch the game and you got to remember what you see in the game because context matters. And bending and not breaking for this defense is a little worrisome for this defense in particular. You're not supposed to be bending at all. But you bent a little bit with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's my whole thesis after saying everything that I just said. You're not supposed to be bending with this defense that you have. Again, as a collective, outstanding. Statistically, they held it down. They were dominant. The front four, everybody showed out. It was really good to see. I'm not one. And Landon Collins, I'm just one person who's excited to see Landon Collins back, and I hope he's in his all-pro form, man, because if you can get 3 safeties out there who can contribute to this team and allow Jack Del Rio to use 3 safeties in that Buffalo nickel, that vaunted Buffalo nickel that they always talk about nowadays, and things like that, I'm perfectly fine with that. I am a fan of Landon Collins being back and being fully healthy. I don't give a damn if he's talking about some $80 million on a contract, because if you can get him for his last 2 years playing at an elite level, who knows how great this defense can be. Good for him, good for the team. And good for him because if he wants to leave, he can find elsewhere and do something else, and Cam Curl can take over 100%. But at the same time, you're talking about a guy and Landon Collins who needs a major bounce back, and he's been able to do that. He shut everybody up. We're talking about that man playing linebacker in the offseason. He laughed at all of us. He laughed at our ass. And yet, dude was flying. He laughed at our ass. And I see why he laughed at us. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, Landon. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Take it back. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't even know if I was one of those people who said he was supposed to be I don't know if I was one of the people who said he was supposed to be a linebacker, man. I did entertain the thought, but I don't know if I was fully committed. But yeah, Landon was a bright spot. So we can transition to these 4 W's and get up out of here. Again, if you want to call in, you can. 443-242 4479. I'm gonna get into these 4 W's for the post game of the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll go into a little bit more detail with Dre and Doc Walker tomorrow. The OG Doc Walker, man, I can't wait to speak to him. That's the person that my folks grew up on. So I gotta hold it down for my folks. I gotta hold it down for my aunt and uncle. It's just kind of crazy. My close family, all Skins fans, except for my sister. Rest in peace to her. But she was a Cowboys fan. And Jesus Christ, like, if there was one mistake that she ever made in life, that was it. Cowboys fan. I don't know how they do it. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and transition to these 4 W's, man. So for those who don't know, I'm on Twitter daily. You can follow me at Let Mual Tell It. I'm on Twitter daily, and twice a week I ask a series of 4 questions. The 4 questions are intended to see where people's head are at, and force a little bit of critical thinking. Sometimes the questions are basic, I'll admit that, but most of them aren't. I can say that for a fact. Most of them aren't. They're intended to force thought into your response. So again, I asked 4 questions post game and pre game heading into a game, and I just want to see where people's head are at. So there's a who, there's a what, there's a when, and there's a why, and we'll go in order, and we'll get it going. So I'm gonna ask you all, everybody that's in the chat, I'll ask, who's in more trouble than people think heading into the Tuesday's cut deadline? Like I said before, the Tuesday's cut deadline is at 4 p.m. Eastern. So I asked that question to everybody, and woo, Jesus Christ, Basil Hayden. So I asked that question to everybody, and I'll start off with some of the responses because I always read them. I always read the best responses that I get on stream and for the podcast. And the first one comes from, actually, I want to say that 1 second. First one comes from Ace Infinite. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say, but he said Peyton Barber. And Patterson is making him look more and more expendable every game. So I agree with that. And I had to mention this because a lot of people had the same responses as Ace. And for Washington, this is the dilemma that we talk about with Jared Patterson, right? When I say he's shaking the tables, it comes down to if Washington wants to keep 3 or 4 running backs, because Jared is making the team. He's not getting cut. Nothing's happening to Jared. He's here. So are they going to cut Peyton Barber, or are they going to add him or keep him on the roster and make it 4 running backs? Personally, I say keep 3. There's no reason for you to keep Peyton Barber. And I'm not necessarily saying, put it this way, I'm not a fan of any running back. I'm not a fan of any running back who can come across the NFL. Anybody that's averaging under 3 yards a carry, flat out, I'm just sorry. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of any running back who's averaging under 3 yards a carry. And truth be told, Peyton Barber, it doesn't matter what type of role they define him as, it just doesn't work out. I'm not convinced he'll improve. He's only asked to do one thing, and that's to get 1 or 2 yards, and that's all he does. He doesn't look to create plays. He just lowers his shoulder, try and get those 1 or 2 yards, and if he falls short, he falls short. Coaches know that. The team knows that. The fans know that. But he's not necessarily looking to create a play. He's looking to just get his job done. And sometimes you got to do more when you're trying to get a job. Like if you're trying to be a standout or extend your career, you got to do a little bit more than what people are asking you to do. And 2.7 yards a carry, that's what he averaged last year. It's terrible. Raise your hand in this chat. Raise your hand ever. Like if you want to run it back who's averaging 2.7 yards a carry and saying, okay, I can see why they keep him. All right. I thought ain't nobody doing that shit. So secondly, Derek Forrest. This is from Shooters Dre. Derek Forrest. I'm not necessarily sold on him as the 4th or 5th safety. I'd rather have Jeremy Reeves in that spot with Forrest on the practice squad. He's the only one that called out Derek Forrest. And to be honest with you, I'm 100% in agreement. If you all saw me on Friday, I had an issue with Derek Forrest, man. Everybody's seen it by now. It's the fake toss to the running back where Derek Forrest crashed so hard. Like, he didn't know it was a play action until the ball was thrown. So think about that. A play action, which requires a fake to the running back. That's probably like a 5-second difference between the fake and then the ball being thrown. Derek Forrest had no idea the ball was being thrown until the ball was thrown. That's how committed he was to the run game. He didn't care what the running back did. I mean, what the quarterback did. He didn't care about any of that. So for me, to answer the question, I 100% agree with Shooters Dre in terms of Derek Forrest, man. I'm not necessarily sold on him. I'm not necessarily convinced that he's going to make the 53. And truth be told, like, there has been some people. I've looked at rosters today. I've looked at projected depth charts. I'm not necessarily convinced that Derek Forrest should be in there at all by anybody. I don't care what they see in practice. He's not the guy who's been showing up in game. He looks lost. He looks out of place completely, bro, in every single instance that he's on the field. And I'm not necessarily a fan of that, man. So Derek Forrest is one person where I wholeheartedly agree is in more trouble than people think. I don't know about Tuesday's cut deadline. I'll be honest in that front. I don't know about Tuesday's cut deadline, but I have no doubt he's like, it could be Jeremy Reeves and DeShazier Everett before Derek Forrest. He has not shown anything that tells me he needs to be kept around above the veteran players on this roster at all. So that is the who. So we're gonna go to the what now. What has been the biggest surprise 2 weeks into the preseason? Good and bad. Or we can do good and or bad, whatever, however we want to put it, right? So the first one comes from Cold Killer, a consistent responder to these questions. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you for always engaging. The good, Patterson knew he'd likely shine in preseason, but it ain't hype. Mans can ball. The bad is no real offensive punch. I thought preseason with quarterbacks who knew the offense, we'd be getting more scoring. And then secondly, from K-Bob, Kevin, first subscriber, man. Shout out to you, bro. I appreciate you for believing in the Trapper Dive podcast and the Trapper Dive stream. 2 surprises for me. Apparent functional depth at corner and running back. And then 2, Ron's willingness to play young players with the ones to see what they can do. Now, I love this tweet because he wasn't the only one who mentioned the cornerback depth. Torrey McTyer, I am becoming a fan each and every day. Torrey McTyer is a guy where I'm not necessarily concerned that he's going to make the team. Like, I think the more plays or the more opportunities he get, he'll make even more plays. It's not like the more opportunities he'll get, he'll disappear. I think he'll make more plays. And I liked what I saw from him against the Cincinnati Bengals and his short opportunity. Actually, he started, so I'm not gonna say short opportunity, but his short stint, with Washington. I like what I'm seeing with Torrey McTyer. He's growing on me. I'm not gonna say I completely believe in him to be a superstar. I'm not even gonna go that far. I'm not gonna say he's a starter. I'm not gonna go that far. But I like the depth that he can provide. He can fill in for sure, and he showed he could fill in spot duties for Kendall Fuller and William Jackson III, and if they need to, because of the fact that they both sat out against the Cincinnati Bengals. So it was Benjamin St. Juste and Torrey McTyer who started for Washington, and they held their own. So the functional depth at cornerback, I completely agree with, and Ron's willingness to play young players with the ones. This goes back to Jared Patterson, but also a person that people probably aren't thinking about right now. And that's John Bates. So let me see if I can find this tweet. John Bates. This is from Nikki Givallo, the Washington Post. This is not it. Here it is right here. All right. So John Bates played 52% of the offensive snaps for Washington. Logan Thomas played 23 snaps. Ricky Seals-Jones played 35 snaps. And John Bates played 38 snaps. So Seals-Jones was clearly like right behind him. But John Bates played plenty of time with the ones, and he held his own. Like I said, he was not a person who played bad. He was consistently good in his first 2 appearances with Washington. And it's something that you can kind of look forward to in the sense of he's not a Actually, let me rephrase. Because we don't know what he's going to look like over a 16-game course. Dakota, you're weird. We don't know what he's going to look like over a 16-game course, but I'm definitely a little encouraged by the confidence they have in Bates, but also the fact that he didn't stand out in a negative way. Because if he stood out in a negative way, we would all see it. There's no doubt we will all see it. And John Bates is somebody that I continue to have my eye on, and somebody who I'm going to be paying attention to against the Baltimore Ravens upcoming. It's that tight end position. Somebody has to step up, and I'm looking forward to Sammis Reyes. He is back, as well as Tamarick Hammerway, who's been practicing today. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to step up at that tight end position, because Logan Thomas is the only one right now who has been doing anything productive in terms of being a pass catcher for this offense. So yeah, we need to see a little bit more from the backups there in that regard. So yeah, I agree with Kevin wholeheartedly with the 2 surprises. And that's, it's really good. It's really good. Okay. So we're going to move on to the win. And as we spoke, if you heard Montel earlier, we had these issues with the offense. There was a lot of concern, not just from me, not just from him. There was people all throughout Washington football community, the Twitter community, where you ask the question, when will you start to up your level of concern for the starting offense if they continue to struggle to finish drives? As I was saying before Montel called, the issue with this offense isn't the fact that they're not moving the ball. They're moving the ball. If they were a team who were just going 3 and out, that would be another issue. These guys are moving the ball, but mistakes are being made at the latter end of the drive. So we ask, when will you start to up your level of concern for the starting offense? And here are the two answers that stood out to me. This is from Ryan of Washington Football Daily. My concern began on Friday. I didn't say anything in hopes that maybe I was overreacting, but it started becoming a concern. The red zone offense looks kind of meh, but I won't truly be, now he put truly, and he emphasized the truly word. I won't truly be concerned until week 1. And the real world mentioned just flat out after halftime, week 1. Now here's what I would say. After halftime, week 1, it comes down to the Chargers, man. The Los Angeles Chargers, they aren't waiting for anyone. They aren't waiting for anyone to catch up. They're not waiting for anyone to get in sync, to make sure everything is together. I personally believe, and I believe this is not just this year. We haven't faced the Chargers in 4 years, so if it sounds like I'm making this up, I'm not. I just had no reason to talk about them. The Chargers have been one of the better teams on paper and roster-wise for a number of years now. They had no drop-off in quarterbacks. They lost Phillip Rivers, came up Justin Herbert. What are the fucking odds? They lost Phillip Rivers, came up Justin Herbert. They still have their offensive talent. The defense was probably the best thing for them, and I respect that side of the ball so much. The defense is what is really the point in which I'm impressed by that team. Obviously, Justin Herbert, he's the difference maker with that arm and accuracy and playmaking ability with his arm. But that defense is the wild card. But I think that this defense is really they're talking. I'm thinking top 10 potential. That's how good I think their defense is. They're not waiting on anybody to show up. So after halftime, week 1, I understand where Rail is coming from. But I'm gonna tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, if we're talking about after halftime, week 1, and Washington is down 14 plus points against the Los Angeles Chargers, you have a bigger problem than you can imagine. Excuse me, I had to take a sip. You have a bigger problem than you can imagine. I'm not necessarily I'm not so certain red zone issues, because red zone, you have to be so precise, you have to be on the same page, you have to understand what everybody's doing. I'm not so sure that this team will solve everything before week 1 when it comes to the red zone. I'm not entirely too sure that'll happen. So that's kind of where I'm at with that side of the ball, man. I understand where Rail is coming from, and I understand where Ryan is coming from. But I'm not going to sit here and say week 1 halftime is where I'll be concerned. I'll be concerned, to be honest with you, after what I will see against the Baltimore Ravens on this upcoming Saturday. This is a big test for Washington in terms of their ability to score points and move the ball against a better defense than the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll see what they're looking like. But I can't wait for that game. I can't lie to you. I can't wait for that game, man, to help me get some more answers and get some projections going in terms of how I really think this offense can be. So yeah, I think the real test is going to come against Baltimore, man, and see how they respond to what Ron Rivera and company wants out of them. And speaking of Ron Rivera, let me see if I have the quote from him. If I don't, I'll move on. But I'm gonna see if I have the quote from him. Hold on 1 second. Is it 23/8/21? Where is she at? Do I have it? I do. Okay. All right. So Ron Rivera said that when it comes to balancing preseason work with actually scoring points. I'll just read this verbatim for people who haven't heard Ron Rivera's presser over the past couple of days. So it sounds like JP Finley asked this question. He said, "Well, I think that's exactly it, JP. It's about good work. Like I said, the thing that was kind of pleasing and yet still disappointing was Fitzy making great decisions. He just delivered the ball that was a bit too high and was a far away and away. All right. He just delivered a ball that was a little bit too high and away as far as Logan was concerned. I think the one he threw to Adam Humphries was a little bit outside. So he had opportunities to put points on the board for us, but he made good decisions. Unfortunately, the execution part, the ball was just a little out of reach." This is also something I said on Twitter on Saturday, the day after this thing, because a lot of people was overreacting to Fitz. He made good decisions. It was the execution part that was poor. But again, back to Ron Rivera, he said it was a good play call, a good execution up until the point where we didn't convert as far as throwing as the throwing catch. I don't even know. I think that was a typo from Washington. But again, we made good decisions. Remove ball the second week in a row. I think that we've dominated the time of possession, yardage, stuff like that. So I think our guys are getting it. They're putting it together, but we'll see what happens. So Ron Rivera is aware of the issues and the concerns that Washington football fans has, and things like that. And also the media has as well. So, we'll see how that goes. What's going on, Schleezo, Brad? Talk to me, man. What advice do you need? Tell me. But yes, he's that's what he's looking at, and he's aware of the things like that. So, it's a really good dilemma, or interesting dilemma. I'm not gonna say it's a good dilemma. It's an interesting dilemma that we're facing, because you don't know to what degree Washington is really hammering down the fact that they need to look better, or if they're thinking that their time is going to come. And if they're thinking the latter, it's about to be 2016 all over again. where the offense is elite in between the 20s, but they can't score for shit in the red zone. And that's something that you don't want, man. Something that you don't want. Okay. So the last thing was, why has Washington's starting offense has not been able, I asked it, oh Lord, I don't know why I didn't see that. All right, why has Washington's starting offense not been able to score against New England and Cincinnati? So we asked about the concern level, and then we asked about specific details. Why has Washington's offense not been able to score against New England and Cincinnati? And I will give you the following responses. Where we at? Okay. Oh, this is from Ryan again. Ryan of Washington Football Daily, he answered it. And I asked, like, what are the main factors behind the issue? So he said, I think Scott Turner's offense works better when he can spread the offense out and in turn use a larger portion of the field. In the red zone, he has less space and that playbook gets real mediocre. A smaller issue is with accuracy and execution that may be fixed by week 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Ryan is on the money with this one. I do. I think he's on the money specifically with the accuracy and execution part. As I stated, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick knew where he wanted to go with the football. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick made plays to extend plays and try and give his receivers a chance. Whether it came from drops from De'Ami Brown, who dropped one on the first drive, I believe, where he rolled outside of the pocket to his right, stumbled a little bit, fell, threw the ball to De'Ami, a decent pass, a catchable pass, and De'Ami dropped it. I think that was like on the 3rd and long, if not 2nd and long. These opportunities bypass you so quickly, and you just wonder how often, like in a real life situation or a real game situation, how often are you going to get those moments back? And truth be told, you don't always get them back. So for that instance, like I said, that was an execution factor, right? De'Ami Brown dropped the pass. Accuracy. You have two plays in the red zone in particular. Logan Thomas touchdown and then Adam Humphries touchdown. Where Adam Humphries, I think, played this play so well in the end zone. I don't remember what route he ran, but there was an instance where he, like, the veteran savviness that people kind of often overlook when it comes to Adam Humphries because he's Adam Humphries, whatever. He created this small bit of separation at the tail end of his play, at the tail end of the route, where when Ryan Fitzpatrick threw it, he got about 2 yards away from the defender. And even after those 2 yards away from the defender in which he threw it, Fitzpatrick still overthrew him. He still overthrew him. And it was by a noticeable distance. So with that being said, I think the bigger issues with this side of the ball right now, especially in the preseason, it does come down to execution. I've been saying that since the New England game. That's just kind of the dangerous part of this whole thing is just understanding, like, when the execution is going to come into place and when they're going to start executing. A lot of people are trying to downplay it right now, which is fine. If you want to downplay it, be my guest. But I would say this: pay attention to it. The Baltimore Ravens game, as always, is going to be tough. It doesn't matter if it's regular season or preseason; they always going to play you tough. And if you want to gauge where your team is at in terms of execution, the Ravens will smack you in the mouth from the first snap. So if you want to know how good your team is, if you want to know how prepared your team is, if you want to know where they are in terms of being on the same page, cohesion, chemistry, all that stuff, that game against Baltimore this upcoming Saturday, it'll tell you a lot. It'll tell you a lot. So I'm like the biggest game, and for those who aren't aware, I should say this too because we're wrapping up. Ron Rivera said he's treating this whole week like it's a regular season week. This is the dress rehearsal week. So you can expect the starters to play a half of football. I pray to God Lamar Jackson is playing, because not only it's not about get back or anything with Lamar Jackson, but he's the ultimate outlier with this team in terms of the Baltimore Ravens. Excuse me. He's the ultimate outlier. If you have a backup playing against the Washington football team, you're not going to get a real good gauge of how this team is playing, the pressure that Lamar Jackson is going to put on this defense, the pressure that he's going to put on the offense as a whole, because if they score some points, how is the offense going to react? Anything like that. I swear to goodness. I swear to goodness. If he doesn't play, we're going to have to readjust my expectations. I'll have to readjust my expectations for this game. Because this is a huge measuring stick in terms of, I'm not exaggerating a preseason game. I'm just saying a huge measuring stick in terms of preparedness. How is Washington going to respond? How are they going to come out the gate for a team who you got 6 drives as the starting offense? you got 6 drives as the starting offense, 2 games into the preseason. Now you're about to play a half. You'll probably get 4 to 6 maybe in that game alone. So how are they going to react? And that's the one thing that I'm really interested in seeing against Baltimore, man. I'm not necessarily too sure that this red zone woes is going to be fixed by week 1. But if they can find a way to turn it around, move the ball against the Baltimore Ravens and turn it around in the red zone right now, that's going to be a huge confidence booster against this for this team moving forward against the Chargers and everybody else that they're going to be facing, man. That's for sure. All right. So the last question that I had before we get up out of here, or the last response, comes from Strict9, Spider Strict, man. It's the same question. What's the offensive woes against Cincinnati and New England? And he mentioned it's partially the offensive line looks more troublesome than I expected, and Fitz hasn't quite settled into a new rhythm with his receivers. I'll say this, man. I agree. I agree in the sense that Fitz hasn't gotten to a rhythm. The offensive line had a good performance, and then they had a shaky performance. The good performance against New England, but wasn't quite there yet with Cincinnati. Cincinnati line, by the way, defensive line who actually has improved from a year ago. So the perception is kind of bad on them, but in reality, they've improved, and you can't take away those improvements regardless of how much you want to undermine the Cincinnati Bengals, because you don't know them and you don't really fuck with them like that. Point being, I agree. Like, I think that Fitz hasn't quite settled in well, but I think I will give more credit to the Cincinnati defensive line for making plays. But yes, they're the reason that's causing the stress for this offensive line, for Washington's offensive line, and you know, it'll be an even bigger test Saturday, right? You're playing against a better team, on a better overall team who has a better front seven. And if they're treating this game like we're treating the game in terms of a dress rehearsal and playing the first half, you'll see a lot more. You'll see a way lot more than what we've seen in the first 3, 4 drives, 6 drives from the starting offense and the challenges that they faced so far into the preseason. So, hey, that's where I'm at. All right. So I think I have something going on this evening. Yeah, I do. I have an interview. More so a conversation, man. I don't even like doing these. This ain't no goddamn interview for real, but conversation with some more Washington football people, man. I'm about to chop it up with the Daily District. Hold on one second. Where's Triv? There we go. Ref the District. Why did I say Daily District? Ref the District, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. And I appreciate everybody who's tuning in again. Tomorrow, Doc Walker's joining the Chopper Dive podcast. We're gonna chop it up with him for a second, talk some put a lid on the Cincy and Washington football team game, but also preview the Baltimore game this upcoming Saturday. That's tomorrow. Wednesday, we're talking Raiders, PG Native with Malik OB. Thursday, a full hour preview of the Baltimore-Washington game with a Ravens reporter, as well as somebody who covers the Washington football team. So we got a good thing, and I'll be back obviously pregame, postgame for the game on Saturday. So yeah, we got a few things going on, man. So I'm gonna go and get up out of here. YouTube, if you all can, man, just get a kid a subscription or subscribe. And obviously the podcast stuff too as well, man. So appreciate everybody for listening. The YouTube and Twitch is going to be, for those who are listening to the podcast, it's going to be in the bio. It's a simple click. It'll take you right to where you need to be, man. Appreciate everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. And I will be back tomorrow, man. Peace.
Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga. Don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the